Welcome to Playing the Big, Beautiful Long Game, where entrepreneurship meets spirituality. In this podcast, we explore the intersection of personal fulfillment, spiritual growth, and business success. This podcast delves into the idea that entrepreneurship is not just about profits or growing businesses. It's also about embracing purpose, meaning, and inner growth. Each episode features conversations with entrepreneurs and thought leaders who share their journeys of building businesses that align with their highest values and deepest calling. I'm your host, Debbie Zita. Sit back, relax, and thank you for being here. Welcome, beautiful Cathy. Thank you so much for being here. Can you please let the audience know who you are and what it is that you do?
Okay, so thank you very much, Debbie, for having me on here today. My name is Cathy Sheppard, and I come from Wellington, New Zealand, and I create amazing teams and organisations. I'm a founder of BSI People Skills, which is an organisation where we build leadership and teams to create amazing workplace cultures, because when you have an amazing culture in your workplace, it changes everything for the people in the business and for the results of the business itself. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. As soon as you said your intro, I'm thinking back to all of the different workplaces that I've had. It has been a long time that I've worked for someone else because I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. And but it's funny how my memory's gone back to the cultures that were not good, because unfortunately I think that's what stays with you. And me being the very big-hearted and very, very kind of open person and just very honest person, very sensitive person, any kind of toxicity, and I would actually become quite sick. And I didn't know that, back then, but I can reflect back and go, oh my gosh, it's everything. So I want to find out.
It affects every area of your life, right? It affects not only your own physical health, because it affects your sleep, it affects every layer of your emotions, but it also affects your relationships, because you've got nothing left at the end of the day. You sort of have to gird your loins before you go into work. You're guarded all the way through the day. You're nervous about what might happen and so on. And so you're not able to function at your best. And then when you get home, you've used so much energy that you've got nothing left. And so you become almost like this vegetable on the couch, or, that's got no energy, or is grumpy, or is, and so it actually really affects your family life as well, and your ability to interact with friends and so on. Whereas if you can go to work and you love what you do and you love the people that you work with and you feel confident and able to use the different skills that you bring and get on with the different people around you, regardless of whether they're the same as you or different than you, or, then you actually go home and you're full of energy because you've had a great day. You've learnt about relationships with different people. And so you're able to bring that and that acceptance into your family life as well. And you can let yourself and let other people be the people that you are.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. And I'm just thinking from even like a human behavioral perspective, because when we're going through any level of trauma, and that's what it is, and it can be any extreme, from the boss ignores you to there's gossip there, and worse, there can be harassment and things as well, at the upper level of the spectrum. But our brain doesn't function.
100%.
We can't make decisions. We certainly can't be creative. It impacts our ability to connect with the public, which, if that's the type of work that you're doing, that impacts you in that way. And if you're more behind the scenes in a technology sort of setting or role, again, you haven't really got the ability to be able to think.
No, I 100% agree.
To be
And
productive.
that's the way that our brains work. So
Yeah.
yes. And you don't realize that. So many people don't realize that they're operating in that very limited way because of the trauma and stuff that is going on. And I'm glad that you've labeled it as trauma, because it is trauma.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
It's making me think. So and we don't know each other. So thank you for allowing me to kind of digress into different pathways of thoughts. But it's making me also think of, I've done a number of trainings around family constellations, and we know that the formative years from 0 to 7 is where our patterning is really, solidified. Of course, we can change that. And part of the work I'm doing in my coaching practice and the community and the podcast is really to help people to rewire their brain, to dissolve those patternings, to open their heart center, to come to a place of full love and acceptance of self, and then be instruments of love out in the world in whatever way, shape, or form that is. If you don't know any of that, and you've come from a family where 0 to 7, dad was drinking, mum ignored you, or whatever the story was, but there was a feeling of some level of trauma and toxicity, you'll probably naturally attract a workplace that mirrors that patterning because on a subconscious level, you actually want to heal that. So if
Mm.
anyone is listening, and I always tune into the energy of who might be listening and who might need to hear a message that I have, that you might have. Cathy, what might be the first step? And I don't know if this is your area of expertise, but if someone is in a workplace and they're hearing this conversation going, oh my God, I think that that's my
Mm.
workplace.
Mm.
What can they do to start to change that?
I think the first thing is recognizing it. And I think it depends. My experience of working with different workplaces is that it has to start from the top. The people that are often experiencing the challenges might not be the people that are leading the organization. And so it's much more difficult for them to be able to create change, because if it's not supported from the top and led from the top in a way, or at least accepted from the top, then they can do very, very little. And so they can either protect themselves and continue on doing what they're doing and just doing their job and accepting that that they're not going to be able to create anything particularly spectacular. It's almost about protecting themselves and going through the motions. And part of that is being able to look at what do they need. Like I was talking to somebody earlier today, and they would love to be able to go and create their own business, right?
Yeah.
But the situation that they're in terms of their family is that actually they're the provider for their family
Yeah.
and they have a huge mortgage. And so it's about that acceptance of, yes, I would like to do this, but at the moment, my job is good. It's okay. It's providing all of the needs that I'm wanting it to do. So I can be, this is what they said to me, I
Mhm.
can be the best person that I am for myself at work. I can be the best person that I am for myself at my home. And I can live my life in a way with acceptance. It might not be, but it is what I need at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to circle back to what you were talking about before with family, because I think every single person in the world who has been into school, right? You might have this incredibly loving, supportive family. There may not have been that sort of trauma at school, sorry, at home, but then they go into school, right? And as soon as we start going into school, we've got so many expectations and things that are put on us that this is what we need to learn and this is what we need to do. And no, you're not doing that right. And no, you can't be like that. And you get the judgment of the teachers, you get the judgment of the people that are around you. And you have to start to conform to this is the box that you need to fit into. And what are you going to do when you leave school? And what sort of job are you going to get? And you must do this and you need to do that and you must do this and should and should and should, right? And so no matter what, we get corralled into being this person that we should be or that we have to be, right? And so part of the work that I do with the leaders and for teams is to actually help people to stop and think, well, who am I? Which is part of what you're doing as well. Who am I? What is important to me? And I use various tools like EverythingDiSC is an incredibly powerful tool for helping people understand their personality, why they do what they do. And therefore, why do people think of me like this, right? Why are we rubbing each other up the wrong way? So why I do what I do, why other people do what they do, and therefore, how can we work together? And so instead of looking at somebody who's very different, and you might have judged them in the past, going, oh my goodness, they're so boring, or, they're so rigid in their thinking, you can go, wow, I love the way that they plan. I wish I could do that. Let's work together. And I'll have the ideas and you can do the planning, right? And we can make it work together. But they also need to understand that, because they might look at me and go, man, you're just off the planet, right? Well, what planet do you think that those ideas are never going to work? And they won't without somebody to be able to actually help make sense of them and to be able to ground them. And this is where we can use the diversity on the team. And we have to understand that. We have to accept that, because I've had people from every walk of life and from all of the different personality styles, if you like. There are some that really accept who they are, and then there are some that feel really uncomfortable with whatever what they uncover through that, because of this idea of, well, you should be like this or you should be like that. So yeah, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
so interesting. Well, I think what you're talking about, the way I'm understanding it through the map of my world, is the dynamic.
Yes.
Because there's, a personality. Personality testing is, I see it as being a part of it. And then also when you're around the correct environment for you, if we think of it like a plant, where
Mm,
there's water, there's sunshine,
yes,
everything's there that you need. The parts of us that are really shiny and connected and blossomy and creative and beautiful in that sort of in that really energy way and that characteristic way, they're able to shine and come through.
yes,
And so
yes.
my background is not corporate, and my background is, I've been I guess a solopreneur for a long time, although it's not registered as a solopreneur. I have a company, but it was very challenging for me as a business owner who does work predominantly alone to start to then delegate and have a team. And I'm now in an interesting position where I do have a team, and I'm now involved with a number of different teams, and then learning how to be direct and a bit aggressive when I need to, but then learning how to take a step back and let others step in when I need to. I think, and also what's coming to my mind is so much of it is dissolving the ego. It's really being there for the betterment of that company,
Yes.
however big or small it is.
Absolutely. And in order to be able to do that, you actually have to create an identity for that company, right? You have
Yes.
to know who that company is, what it stands for,
Yes.
why it was created, and this is why the mission or the purpose of the business is really, really important, right? Because why was it created? What difference is it there to make in the world? What difference is it to make for people?
Yes.
Because otherwise it's really hard for people to buy into that. If it's just there to make money for the owner, it's much harder to be actually able to give your whole self
Absolutely. That's the
to that work.
emotional buy-in. And
Yes, absolutely.
often talks about cynics works often around the why,
Mm,
you know,
yes,
and
absolutely.
that's whether that's a big company or a small company, because we all
Mm,
have days where we're human and you
yes,
just wake up and go, oh, I don't want to do this. And
yeah.
that's as a business owner and also as an employee. But if
Mm,
you have that very clear mission, vision, values, and you
yes,
understand the why and also
yes,
your own why, then
yes,
you can move through those days and weeks.
yes.
Hopefully, it's not more than weeks. Otherwise, you're potentially in the wrong
Mm,
workplace
mm,
or the wrong
mm,
company.
mm,
But
mm,
then to go, it's gonna pass. This time shall
mm,
pass, and it's a growth
yes.
opportunity instead.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. And there's another tool that helps with, the emotions that you've just touched on there, which
Yes.
is a tool from Jeremy Dean in Wellington, and it's now being used globally, which is called the Emotional Culture Deck. And what that does is it helps people to identify the different emotions that, the ones that they're wanting to feel and the ones that they're not wanting to feel, but also to then be able to create those strategies to be able to manage and cope when you've got those strategy, those
Yeah.
situations that you're just talking about, so that you don't get stuck in them, so that you can support each other through, whether it's the overwhelm or, because especially in busy companies, overwhelm is a massive thing, right? And so if you've
Yeah.
got strategies to be able to recognize that, yes, I'm feeling overwhelmed,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, well, what do I do when I'm overwhelmed? Do
Yeah.
I continue to go down the reactive line and start to feel totally incapable or stuck or disheartened or whatever? Or do I go, actually, stop, we're all overwhelmed. Let's have
Yes.
a
So
breathe.
good.
Let's have a breath, right? Okay, what do we actually need to do? Let's make a list. Let's plan. What are the important things? Who's going to do what, right? And then all of a sudden, you've got a plan to be able to get through it, which helps people to deal with it so that you're not having to deal with it for weeks or months, right?
Yes.
That's one of the things that Jeremy talks about, and his work comes from um, Sigal Bassard, and talks about squashing down the emotions that we don't want to feel, and then we do end up feeling them for weeks and months. Whereas if we can acknowledge them, we can move through them.
Beautifully said. Yeah, that to me sounds a bit like suppression and repression.
Yes.
Something that a lot of us do in our society because it's just so fast paced and we're often not taught the tools. And it's interesting, obviously I've been in human behavior for 25 years. I've had an enormous journey of trauma and over many
Mm,
decades. I've had to find any tool I could and figure out a way to come out of it. And
mm,
even myself, I had a time where I didn't understand my feelings.
Well,
And
so
so,
many people don't, right?
yeah,
So
because
many
we're
people
not
don't.
taught to. Is it
No, happy,
interesting?
sad, mad, angry,
Yeah,
grumpy,
that's it. When you find out,
frustrated, maybe embarrassed, and we're about there,
yeah, that's
stressed,
right. That's
tired,
right. That's
and that's
right.
totally it. But stressed is, when we talk about I'm stressed, right? All we're doing is making ourselves more stressed.
Yes,
Whereas if we can look behind it, well, why are you stressed? Oh, it's because you're feeling overwhelmed. Okay, all of a sudden I've got a plan to be able to get through that, right?
absolutely.
Or I'm feeling anxious. Why are we feeling anxious? What's our plan to be able to deal with that when we're feeling anxious? And Yeah, it's a really empowering thing to do, to be able to acknowledge what we're feeling. And the other thing is, like, it's
Yes.
encoded in our language, as English speakers. What do? How are you? I'm good, fine, all good,
So true.
right?
It's just the stock
And yet,
standard. Yeah.
exactly, it means nothing.
Yes.
Except it's another way of just saying hello on multiple levels.
Yeah.
If somebody says, well, I'm actually feeling really overwhelmed at the moment, it's like, oh, do I need to listen to this?
Yeah, and there's a whole other dynamic at play, and then
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, totally.
navigating all of
Totally.
that. Kathy, can you share with us how did you get started in this role?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I've been working with people all my life. I was born in Japan,
Mhm.
and both my parents are multilingual. So my dad spoke 8 languages, my mum speaks 5, and I grew up in a house like the United Nations. So we had people from all around the world coming to stay all the time, which was really unusual back in New Zealand. I came back to New Zealand when I was 3, and so I was surrounded by multiple languages being spoken at home, people from literally all around the world coming to stay. And so obviously people do different things, right?
Right.
And so I grew up going, why do they do that? And really genuinely curious about, well, why do people do what they do, right? And so, yeah, then I went back to Japan as an exchange student and continued talking with different people and so on. And then I was involved in an organisation called Play Centre, which is a New Zealand organisation for early childhood that is run completely by families. So the families, it's a volunteer organisation. You join because you've got a child. You're working with other people from vastly different backgrounds who also have children, a child, and you've got to run the centre together
Wow.
and educate the children, where your background isn't necessarily about child education. And you're educating all the children, not just your own, but all of them. And so there's this whole journey there. And you've got times when parents are, mothers particularly, when their children are young, it's incredibly stressful. You're sleep deprived, you're on a short leash, and you've got this little child that's always with you, right? Or children that are always with you.
Yeah.
And so it's a time when there's potential for a lot of conflict.
Yes.
And so I ended up having 20 years in that organisation. And the last 12 years of that was in adult professional development, creating great cultures within the different centres. Because when you have a great culture, it makes such a difference, right? And
Yeah.
so learning how to develop the leadership, because you've got, with the other thing with businesses and so on, you've got relatively static teams. You go through a recruitment process, you have job descriptions, all of the rest of it. With this, you're just taking the next person that walks in the door. The only qualification they have is that they have a child, right?
It's the most
No job
wildest
description
thing to
required.
think of, isn't it? And it's your most
Absolutely.
precious, it's your
Absolutely.
child,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
to
Absolutely.
think of it, the system is run that way. It's actually
Yeah.
interesting that you're sharing because the name of my company is called Visionary Institute of Leadership.
Uh-huh.
I don't present that to the public because things have evolved and changed since COVID, and my work has evolved and changed. But that was how we started, and that's still how it's registered. And in
Yeah.
the first year, I was actually going into schools and childcare settings
Yeah.
and working with the leadership teams.
Mm,
So
mm,
it's
mm,
reminding me of, understanding their culture and what I can say. I only did a handful, so I don't want to pretend like I have anywhere near the experience that you do because I don't.
mm,
But what I remember is that those that were really connected in that people way, where there was just love and care and respect, like all the things that you think, isn't
mm,
that just normal? Well, it's
mm,
normal from my culture, but obviously everyone sees that in different ways. But that was where, and one of them was where my son was. That was where there was the most, happy children, connected children. The development was healthy, and then in the ones where there was the stress and there wasn't the harmony in the team, that was filtered down through. When I got to see top down, bottom up, I was like, this is a blessing to see this perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I had that time working in that.
Yes.
And I was starting to hear, because I knew that I couldn't stay there for the rest of my life, right? I had
Yes.
to find another pathway. And
Yes.
Sunday afternoon conversations with friends, right? Or acquaintances.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there going, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. I hate work. And
Oh,
always coming back to, well, why do you hate work? I hate my manager. They're just horrible, right? Or I hate the people that I work with because it's just so uncomfortable, right? And so they're losing sleep and so on. And then you get the flip side, which is, oh, I'm just so excited. I've just been made a team leader, or I've just been promoted into this role, or I've just. And then you watch, so you're really excited with them, and then you watch them die over the next few months, right? Because they're not given any training. People are promoted generally, and this is true in New Zealand, but it's also true in other countries around the world. They're promoted because they've been in their job the longest, or
Okay.
they were really good at their job, and therefore it's their turn, right? And of
Okay.
course, they were really good at their job. They'll make a great manager.
Not always the case. Oh my gosh.
No. And
Yes.
so you've got the fallout from that. And this is so simple. If we were to train people in the skills that they need that would help them grow as managers of people or leaders of people, it saves so much heartache and
Yeah.
so much fallout from rubbing people up the wrong way, and the stress affects health and well-being, affects every
Yes.
area.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So
I
there's
love what
no
you're
way around
sharing. I have a family friend who I'm thinking of, and exactly that. She's a teacher and she was wonderful at what she did. And then it was her turn. Her hair fell out.
it. Yeah.
She was covered in pimples. She couldn't breathe. And I was like, what's happening, sweetie? And she's like, I can't do this job
No,
because there wasn't the training. It was just, it's
no.
your turn. Here you go.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Stress got to.
And it's not only that, but so that's the impact on her personally,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What's the impact on the team members,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
Because they also are under stress. They also are getting cross with her. They're not able to do their best work. And it creates this toxicity within the organization, not because anybody has gone deliberately set out to destroy the organization or create a
No,
bad
no.
culture. This is it's not done maliciously.
Yeah,
It just
it's
it
just
just
I think
happens.
that there's gaps, and I was actually having this conversation with someone else yesterday, and it's like we either embrace the gaps and then find a way to close them, or we kind of bury our head in the sand and just go, oh, there's no gaps there. But what you're
Mm,
talking about is a skills gap,
yes, a
and that
skills
doesn't
gap.
happen just because time will change it. You need to identify what skills. Is it leadership? Is it
Yes,
communication? Is it
yes,
time management? Often, and you
yes.
know what's funny, Kathy? It's often the really basic things
Mm,
where you think, well, I know time management, right? I
mm,
know I didn't know time management. I have to learn time management. I
mm,
didn't know communication. We had an interaction this morning where I had to message you because I had a client in crisis, and I have learned that skill to give my attention to her, but then also message you to go, I'm so sorry. I don't really
yes,
know you, but I'm going to be 5 minutes late. So little
yes.
simple things like that build trust.
That's right.
The key.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And talking about communication,
Yes.
communication is 98, 99% of any issue within teams.
Yeah. And
That's
marriages.
why absolutely, this is relationship stuff. I
Yeah.
talk about changing lives, right?
Yes.
In my
Yes.
business, I talk about changing lives at work, play, and home
Oh, I love
because
that.
I go into workplaces
Yes.
and to change lives there. But
Yes.
it always has a flow-on effect. And if we're looking at, for example, disc profiling, often people will start to think about, well, I wonder what disc style my partner is. That's why that's happening.
Yes.
So it helps build those relationships at home as well.
Beautiful.
Mm,
And you're getting to offer the insight and the
mm,
knowledge to people
mm,
in that area
mm.
as well. Kathy, can you walk us through, let's have like a happy, positive story or a case study or a success story, something like that, where you've got someone, it could be a workplace, it could be at home, although I'd love to hear about a workplace if you
Yeah,
can,
sure,
where,
sure.
start, middle, and end, like what happened and how
Yeah.
did you move them
Okay.
through that? Yeah.
So this was an organisation in New Zealand.
Yeah.
They are a national company, and they have 6 different branches and a head office. And they have a leadership team. They had a leadership team at that stage of 8, and that leadership team was barely able to talk with each other. There was zero trust. There'd been a lot of fallout, put it that way.
Yeah.
And they were literally not sure what they could do in order to be able to keep going. These are heartfelt people, they're good people,
Mm.
but they just couldn't work together. And so I met with them for a day, and we uncovered everything that had been going on. And I basically said to them, well, what do you want to do from here? Where do you want to go? This is the things that you love about the company. These are the multitude of challenges that you're facing, the things that you really don't like. What do you want to create together? What do you want this to be like?
Yeah.
And so we created this picture of what they wanted to be like as a team working together. And there's no magic wand with this, right?
Mm.
Okay. And so they walked out of that room that day, and they had already made a difference because they were then able to look each other in the eye
Yeah.
They were able to tap each other on the back, you know, like pat each other's shoulders and things like that, whereas there had been zero physical touch at all when they came in, very little eye contact, because there was zero trust, right?
Yeah.
And so then I continued to run, we ran several full-day workshops with that leadership team, looking at communication, looking at leadership, looking at vision, looking at values, looking at who they wanted to be as a company, looking at what was happening in because there's 6 different branches, right? So what was happening with the different really high staff turnover in all the different branches as
Wow.
well, right?
Okay.
There's this flow-on effect. It's not
Yeah.
just there. There's massive burnout because you've got small groups of people doing lots and lots of work and just head down and trying to do it. And of course, they're burning out. And yeah, just there were problems on so many different levels. And so once we got the leadership team to the point where they're at a 7.5 to an 8 out of 10 in the way that they're working together, which is beautiful.
Yes.
And they'd increased in size by then as well. We then started looking at the branches and we started spreading their new values out, which they'd only tweaked a little bit, but it made just such a difference to be able to bring that people element into their values, where you've got this idea of caring. And so we did communication with DISC with every single branch, and they all got their DISC profiles and looked at what was happening with communication and looked at what the values meant and the vision meant and so on. And everybody was able to engage with it. That company has very, very low staff turnover now. It has great communication. They have a wonderful, wonderful culture, and people are really proud to work for that company. And that's the turnaround that this work can make. Do you want to stay like that?
Yeah.
Or do you want this? Same people,
Yes.
different feel,
Well done, Cathy, and thank you
totally
for
different.
sharing, because isn't it, it's that very interesting coachy question, which is so powerful though. Well, what would you like?
Mm-hmm.
Because we always have free will. We can stay the
Yeah,
same. We can have
yeah,
status quo, or if you want this, that's
yeah,
great. This is
yeah.
how we can get you there. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, well done to you.
Mm.
I
And
can't
there's no
believe,
magic wand. And there's no
no,
magic wand
there's
with
not.
it.
It's I
You
often
actually have to do the
say
work.
absolutely. I often say it's simple but not easy.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually can't believe how fast the time is going. I'm going to move us through a couple more questions, and I want to ask you how we actually met was through the lovely Shah Moore, and then
Yes.
the book project that you've been
Yes.
involved in recently. Can you please share
Yes.
about that, Cathy?
Yes, sure. So it was that impact book, and it launched in New York in Times Square on the 25th of March of this year. It's a beautiful coffee table book. There's 44 of us that have helped write it. We've each got really personal stories of uh, key moments in our lives that have made us who we are, and providing inspiration and motivation to other people. The stories of how people have got through real hard times, and the transformation and the creativity and things that shape who we are as people now and will obviously use into the future. So it's called That Impact Book. It's beautiful. It's a coffee table book, gold cover. Yeah, just Google That Impact Book.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Cathy. That's fantastic. Cathy, can you let us know what self is your favorite and why? And we're referring here to the Six Selves
Mm.
framework that I've created and registered.
Yeah, I loved reading those different selves.
Mm.
Now I actually relate to 2 of them,
Yeah,
and I hope that's okay. But
of course. Yes.
so the 2 that I relate to are the emotional self and the legacy self. That because I've realized that so much of what we do in relationships is dependent on emotions, and so we need to be able to understand our own emotions and not judge, the whether they're good or bad emotions, because they're all just emotions, right? And we all, as human beings, feel them. So being in touch with my emotions and helping other people, learn to manage and use the power of their emotions for good in their lives is really important to me. And the legacy self is also really, really important because I'm so purpose driven.
Mm.
I want people to be able to be the best version of themselves, and to be able to create the best possible positive impact that they can with the people that are around them, so that it's all about relationships, it's all about working together, it's all about accepting and working together with this diverse group of people to make a greater positive impact in this world.
Yeah, beautiful sharing. It's funny. I had a feeling that you might say, and I was thinking, which two is Cathy going to pick? And I don't know you very well because we've just met, but I was thinking the emotional and the legacy self, which is, yeah, beautiful. They're
Mm.
very powerful. Let me ask you last question, and then I'll move into any sharings that you have as well. But what advice do you have for others who are creating a business that serves both the world and their heart?
That's such a good question. You've got to know why, because it's not easy creating a business. You've got to know your why. And so, um, and how strongly you're tapped into that to get you through the hard times.
Mm.
Um, I remember I had a meeting with a business coach. It was my first meeting with that business coach. And he said to me, "What the heck are you doing? Why are you even trying to do this business? There are so many other people around that are doing this, the same sort of coaching that you're doing. They're better than you. They've been doing it for longer. They've got really established businesses. Go home, write a CV, and go and apply for jobs. See you later."
Wow.
All right. And so what I did was I went and wrote a CV and I went and looked for jobs and nothing grabbed me, right? But
Yeah.
what that CV writing had done was to uh, open up for me what my actual skills were
Yeah.
and to be able to stand much more in my strength and also tap into who I was, right? Because that had all been part of that journey. And so I came back the following month and I threw my CV on the table in front of him and I said, "Right, now can we do this?" Because what that process had done was tell me what was important to me. And I get up every single morning to empower people, leaders, and teams so that every single person that I work with can make a greater positive impact in their lives.
Oh, I love that sharing, Cathy, and I feel your heart in that. The amount of times I've been told, go and get a job, go and try
Yeah.
something different. Who do you think you are?
Yep.
I'm at a point now where there's just so much connection in my to my heart and my soul and
Yeah.
my greater purpose that if anything, when I get challenged, and it doesn't really happen these days, but if I have challenges, but if I get
Hmm.
challenged in that way, it's almost for me an invitation to go deeper within myself and solidify that connection to my purpose. And I also take it as something quite spiritual where I'll connect that back to whether that's mindfulness or connection to the divine or my meditation practice, something greater than what we can see here. Because anyone that has been, this is very, I guess, Steve Jobs and Apple, but crazy enough to think that they can,
Hmm.
we're the ones that are changing things.
Yes.
And there are
Yeah.
millions of accountants, there are millions of coaches, there are millions of hairdressers, but there's only one Cathy, right?
Mm. Mm.
Cathy Sheppard and Cathy Sheppard
Yes.
with your story and your
Mm.
soul signature and your skill set. There's only
Yes.
one Debbie Zita, right?
That's exactly right.
And so,
And
yeah,
alongside that, while we're learning about who we are and what we're standing for, we also have to learn about business and how to do
yes,
that,
yes,
and to be able to do that in a way that fits with our core values.
yeah.
So that's what I would say to people. Why are you wanting to do this?
Beautiful.
Mm.
Beautiful sharing, very powerful. Cathy, is there anything else that is on your heart that you wish to share with our audience today?
Be the gorgeous people that you're meant to be. It's find out who you are and accept the people that are around you and learn how to work with those people as well. It's a journey life. And yeah, I think that's what it is accept who you are.
Beautiful sharing. Thank you, Cathy. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
The information provided on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered medical, health, or financial advice. Always consult with a qualified health professional or financial advisor before making any decisions related to your personal health or finances.